Hi friends, welcome back. So as you know, recently Elon Musk went to China to try to get a deal for Tesla regarding your robotaxis, FSD, these kind of things. And we got some sort of rumors on this stuff. The rumor was basically, hey, Elon Musk and Tesla have partnered with Baidu. Baidu, if you don't know, is like the Google of China. But however, there is now a report from the China Daily that sort of casts a little bit of doubt on the deal. And I want to go over the details of this stuff because I've already noticed that people are saying different things. If you go over to the X/Twitter, you can see here one person's like, so there was no Tesla Baidu FSD deal, right? Question mark, hashtag culture of deception, $ Tesla. And then you go to one of the Tesla pumpers, which is Herbert Ong. He's part of the Tesla pumper gang. He's basically like, yo, Tesla set to trial Robotaxi in China. Elon Musk suggests to implement FSD, blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't mention anything about the deal between Tesla and Baidu possibly in doubt. Moreover, you have another person saying here, source close to Baidu told China Daily that he didn't see, quote, any new deal related to FSD functions between Tesla and Baidu, and that it has no direct relations with FSD function. So I actually just want to go through the article to see exactly what it says, so there's no misinformation or disinformation out there. And again, already one of the pumpers is leaving out a key part of information, which is something that pumpers do all the time. They lie by omission. So we're going to go through this whole thing. Again, this is coming from the China Daily. This would be one of the mouthpieces of the government. So we'll just take a look, see what it says. So it says, sources, Tesla plans to test its Robotaxi in China. Okay. So we know Elon Musk went to China. That's confirmed. We all saw it. But what did they talk about? That's sort of what this is about. It says here, Elon Musk, the CEO of the United States electric vehicle maker Tesla, proposed testing the full self-driving or FSD functions of its vehicles in the Chinese market by deploying them as taxis during his recent visit to China. So again, we're talking about he's proposing, can we do full self-driving? Maybe we can do it as taxis. You can see right here. Then it says here, sources indicate that the Chinese government may have offered partial support for this plan. So it's kind of a weak confirmation there. So they may have offered, and then it says partial support. So not full support and not like confirmed support, just may have offered, okay? Moreover, again, you got to read this everything. In addition to seeking approval for its most advanced FSD software rollout in China, Musk also suggested, right, you got to look at the wording of this, suggested implementing these functions in the country's taxi services. Individuals close to the matter told China Daily. So inside sources say this is what they were talking about. And then you can see what Chinese officials thought. Chinese officials told Musk that China, quote, is a quote, welcomes Tesla to do robotaxi tests in the country, right? So this is sort of what we're getting here. And hopes to set a good example, whatever that means. So the quote is, welcomes Tesla to do some robotaxi tests in the country and, quote, set a good example. The sources said, but authorities did not immediately approve its widespread use of FSD functions. So it's looking like maybe you can test some robotaxis, but FSD, we're not like approving that right away. So that's why I got to go through the details of this stuff. Also says here, just talking about more the environment. Industry experts said that despite rising protectionism, including TikTok's ban in the United States, China has sent a clear signal that is further opening its doors to multinational companies to test their advanced technologies in the country for mutual gain. And one of the things I really want to point out with this kind of stuff, if you are, partnering with a Chinese company, which is part of what you got to do when you want to do business there, you always run the risk of essentially the Chinese company stealing your tech. And so, when you read this stuff, hey, please bring your advanced technology for mutual gain. You can read that any way that you like. I'm just literally showing you guys what it says. Moreover, let's take a look here. Musk confirmed earlier this year that Tesla would unveil its Robotaxi, a concept that has been part of the company's ambitious plans on August 8th. We're going to see whatever that ends up being. China is Tesla's second largest market. And trade news reports the Robotaxi could be, quote, life-saving straw. So essentially Tesla needs this thing for the U.S. to gain a market share, U.S. company to gain back market share from local car makers, okay? Let's keep reading through this, guys. And again, the key stuff you're looking for is what's going on with the partnership with Baidu. Is that real or not real? Before the full rollout of its FSD functions, Tesla still needs to get approval to collect and transfer data right? So this is sort of like, are they going to get approval or not to collect and transfer data, right? And also too, can they send the data, because it could be different ways of transferring, right? Is it transferred all the way back to the USA, or is it just transfer it to China headquarters of Tesla, right? So they need to get approval to basically get your data in China. Moreover, it says here, okay, so they need the data. Tesla's cars need to train its driver-assisted features. Also says here, people familiar with the matter said that this issue wasn't discussed in detail during Musk's visit to China, right? So this is actually really important to understand. They need to get approval to collect data, but then they're saying here, people who were at these meetings, I guess, that wasn't part of the conversations, right? People familiar with the matter said that this issue wasn't discussed in detail during Musk's visit to China. So, maybe he mentioned it, who knows, but there's no necessary details of this stuff. And again, you can read this how you like. I'm just going through it with you. Moreover, it says here, on April 20th, Chinese internet firm Baidu held a news conference announcing collaborations with several companies, including Tesla, related to the launch of its advanced lane level navigation. And this is actually really interesting. So basically we're saying, okay, Baidu's got some sort of navigation thing here also, right? So they may have competing technology with Tesla, perhaps. I'm just saying, like reading from what I said, because this is quite interesting is the way that you would read this, is essentially lots of companies are involved in actual collaboration with several companies, including Tesla, right? So not just Tesla, related to the launch of its advanced lane level navigation. Moreover, here we go. Some media reports said that Tesla inked a deal with Baidu to clear another regulatory hurdle for its autonomous driving services. And it says some media said that. Then it says here, this is one of the key part here. A source close to Baidu told China Daily that he didn't see, quote, any new deal related to FSD functions between the two. And when I read that, that really brings into doubt what we're even talking about, right? So all this language is like really iffy so far. Maybe the Chinese government, may offer partial support. and it's funny because if you're a pumper guy, so like, this kind of stuff here, this was the Ong guy, the way he makes it sound like everything's like so positive, it doesn't mention like this kind of language here. I think leaving this stuff out is really lying by omission is a key part. Also, it says here, again, this is saying, a source close to Baidu told China Daily that he didn't see, quote, any new deal related to FSD functions between the two. Here we go, there's more. The two companies initiated the partnership in 2020, so they've been having some sort of partnership for a while, with Tesla already integrating Baidu's navigation map into its vehicles in China. And this is more from the same source. The source said he believed, right? The source said he believed that the latest cooperation only means that the accuracy of Baidu's map provided to Tesla has been improved to some extent, and that it has no direct relations with its FSD function. So at least this one particular source is like, maybe they'll help them with maps, and it doesn't really even, indicate like that they'll be working directly with Robotaxi or anything like that, just talking about maps here. And then I thought the key though is like, didn't see any new deal related to FSD stuff, because I think the FSD stuff is going to be where theoretically, Tesla would be, bouncing off like crazy. I'm talking about the stock here because I've noticed that the stock was down yesterday. It's already down in the pre-market today, as probably this news is coming out. Let's take a look at some more here. Quote, Tesla doesn't rely on mapping to offer autonomous driving and hasn't got a license from Baidu to use its mapping license. So that's actually another key point as well. So I read this stuff as a bit negative, basically saying like, hey, Baidu's like, I don't know what the deal you're talking about. I haven't seen anything with this new FSD stuff. Now we're saying Tesla doesn't rely on mapping to its offer autonomous driving. So is it important to Tesla not to get these maps? Who knows, right? And then also too, the next part is hasn't got a license from Baidu to use its mapping license. So I think those are another key point. Another thing it says here, according to Ministry of Natural Resources, all intelligent driving systems are required to attain qualification before they can operate on public roads. Foreign companies need to partner with domestic companies that have obtained the license. So according to this, it looks like you would need to have that license. And at least this is how I read this, right? Tesla doesn't rely on mapping. So Tesla doesn't need the maps necessarily for its FSD to work. That's kind of how I read this. And then it says here, and it hasn't got a license from Baidu to use its mapping license. So I know it's worded kind of strange, but this is just how we read this stuff. And again, if you guys have different reads of this, please let me know. I honestly just want to show you everything. And I think it's a disservice when this kind of pumper person, this Ong guy, leaves out that stuff where it's a little bit in question what Baidu. I mean, literally, a key part of the article is a source that, by is it, how do they say it? And I want to get the exact wording. They say like a source near Baidu. And this again, you guys, I'm just trying to be accurate, and it's very different than the pumper channels that just try to just make stuff up. Okay, a source close to Baidu, so that's how they say it, and you guys can interpret that how you like. But I just want to go through what it is. The other thing too, what I want to mention with this stuff, and I promise probably the Tesla pumpers won't mention it. One of the key board member, Robin Denholm, and she was the one who made that video recently of like, oh my God, you got to vote for Elon's pay package because Elon's so awesome, right? That kind of stuff. She's selling Tesla stock. It's right here. May 7, 2024, Tesla chairwoman Robin Denholm has sold $50 million worth of stock in 2024. So, this is something that I think, unfortunately, is a shame when it comes to the Tesla pumper community, is they only tell you certain things. They tell you half-truths. They leave out key information. I'll be curious. I promise I already kind of know the answer, but I'll be curious, though, if any of the Tesla pumpers address this kind of thing. But they're probably going to say, oh, well, she has to sell because, she's got some sort of time limit or something. I mean, they'll make up something, but it's just not a good look if you're trying to say, hey, everyone, vote for Elon Musk because Elon Musk and Tesla are awesome, and yet they're selling stock. It's right here. And whether or not they're going to sell more, who knows? Ask her. But she still has a bunch of stocks left. I'm so what I can tell that she's got quite a bit of it, but she is selling. You can see some right here. The other thing I want to chat with you guys about is that Tesla's number 2, or I'm not, who knows what the numbers are now because he keeps firing people, but one of Tesla's top execs, we'll call it that, Tom Zhu, recently returned back to China. He's a Chinese national, and before, it was rumored that he was one of the candidates to possibly replace Elon Musk as CEO. So it's very interesting that he's like leaving USA and going back to China. When he first went to USA, that was with the rumors, like, oh, maybe he's going to replace Elon Musk. Some of the rumors going around, why would he go back to China? There's a couple theories, and this is just more speculation kind of stuff. One would be he's going back to, run that FSD Robotaxi stuff. So the bulls would say, oh my God, it's really bullish that the program's going to be awesome, that kind of stuff. Another thing that I think is a kind of my speculation would be he goes back there. Elon Musk was recently there, and maybe, Elon made a deal with the Chinese government to move jobs to China, which would kind of fit why Elon is firing a whole bunch of people recently, right? So that would kind of make sense. Fire people in the USA, bring jobs to China. Companies do that kind of thing. Regards to whether or not Robotaxi FSD stuff would ever work in China, here's my honest opinion on this stuff. If you want to talk about the pros would be regulations in China can work if you have money and can work for you if you know the right people, right? So it's all about guanxi/relationships. Guanxi just means relationships in China. Also, too, if you hurt someone in China, right, your FSD, your Robotaxi hits someone, kills someone, whatever. Again, if you have the right connections and you're powerful at the right places, you can basically cover it up. That kind of thing probably wouldn't happen in USA. It would be really hard to cover up in a car accident with someone's family where a member got hurt. They would be all over the news and we'd be talking about it. But in China, you could cover it up. So that's a positive for Tesla. Another positive for Tesla is if you make friends with the right people, right, you can push things through very, very quickly. But that's kind of tough to do in this particular space because there's going to be so much competition. And my personal feeling is that the Chinese government will preference Chinese companies. Now, I think IP, theft is a real problem and a concern for Tesla. But in Elon Musk's situation, he may just want to get whatever deal he can to try to save Tesla because they've been losing market share in China. Now, the question I posed to you, because I know there's a lot of bulls out there that want to hear awesome news all the time about Tesla, but here's a question I posed to you, and the question I posed to the people who are pumping Tesla in China. 1, have you ever been to China? I think that's a reasonable question when you talk about this kind of thing. 2, have you ever driven in China? The driving conditions in China are very, very different than the USA. I'll put a link to a video you can take a look at, but I've showed this stuff before. It's apples and oranges, guys. 3, have you ever been in a taxi in China, right? This is a question to anyone who believes in this stuff or is pumping this stuff. And 4, have you ever been in a taxi in your life? Now, I laugh, but guys, I grew up in Oregon, okay? I can just tell you, growing up in Oregon, I had never been in a taxi my entire life. We just don't take taxis in Oregon. I didn't go into a taxi for the first time was until I moved to New York City, and then people ride taxis all the time. The reason why I mention all of these things is because for those of you who think, Robotaxi is going to be this awesome thing in China, you haven't been to China. It's just a different environment. Taxi drivers and taxis are just really cheap. And this idea that robotaxis would replace them, one, it would have to replace people's jobs, which I think is a low chance of that. I think there'd be too many protests and stuff like that. But yes, it's true, that you can just quote protests in China, but I'll just say you're going to piss off some people. Okay, so that would be one. Two, could you actually make robotaxis cheaper than the way they operate now in China? And that remains to be seen. I do question it because the way the system works now, and this would be any country that has a lot of taxis, China being one, taxis are just really, really convenient. You go to the big cities, they're just everywhere, right? You get out of a sporting event, you get out of a concert, you get out of, whatever. They're just sitting there on the street, you hop in and you drive off, right? That kind of thing. Also, too, a taxi with a taxi driver can help you with your luggage, which I think is a key point. If you use a robotaxi and for whatever reason you want to, someone to help with your luggage, because not everyone wants to lift heavy bags, right? Some people want to do it out of luxury. They want someone to help them. Some people are too old. There's just any number of reasons you want a taxi driver to assist you. And I think like these couple of things I just give you, just for example, if you've ever been in a taxi in China, you just kind of know the culture. It's just different. Does that mean robotaxis will never happen? Not necessarily. It's certainly a possibility in the future, but I just think we're really far away. And I don't think necessarily they're cost effective. Again, if you've ever been to China, been in the environment, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I live here in Korea. I can tell you, we take taxis. They're very convenient. I've also lived in China. I've lived in Japan. I've lived in Vietnam. Same kind of situation. Yes, you can call a car. Yes, you can do the ride hailing kind of stuff. But these kind of things are not nearly as popular as they are in USA. It's just a different environment. So I'm not like, guys, robotaxis are going to change the equation for Tesla. I don't believe it's going to be the case. But I do understand if you're pumping the stock and you're an executive or a board member trying to get out of your Tesla stock and sell it to the retail, sure, you're going to pump this stuff all you can. And I understand if you're Elon Musk and you owe a bunch of money to Morgan Stanley because of the Twitter deal, yes, of course, you want to get that package and pump as much as you can. And that's sort of how this game is played. So that's just some thoughts on this stuff. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you next video.